Hey, what's up? I wanted to talk about the grouping experience in World of Warcraft. This was something I had forgotten about that had changed over the years. And I talk about this as a person that was there day one, pretty much, for the game, played in the original game. And yeah, so to see it change. This is something I had forgotten about. This I thought I had made a video talking about what this might be like for a new player and stuff. But I do think it's fair to warn new players, that if they're looking for a group experience, it's going to be hard to find a good one, and I'm going to explain why. So basically, no matter what, all the dungeon grinds in the game, all the dungeons, no matter what level you are, you're just running through and AoEing everything. It's just groups packed together, they pull a bunch of enemies, and then you just AoE it all down. It's very mindless and terrible, really. I mean, it can be fun if all you want to do is slay stuff, right? But there's no group experience anymore. It just doesn't even exist. Maybe at the very top tier end, right? Like mythic, high-end mythic stuff, or the only kind of part of the game that requires coordination. And that's super high. You wouldn't get there for a long time. It takes some really long endgame grinding to get to that point. And until you get there, there's no real challenge to the dungeons or anything, or the group experience. And it really sucks. So it's an interesting thing. I would say, the game is cool as a solo player if you just want to go enjoy the world, but that's not what this game was originally about, And there still is the multiplayer aspect of it, but it's not the same. Everybody's in a hurry to get everything done, much like in real life. If you live in the city, you just need this now, do this now, everything now. And if you're delayed a second past, people hate you for it. If you don't know like a little thing, people hate you for it. No, it's a terrible experience. It really is, and that's what they have allowed this game to turn into. I don't understand it. I remember I came back. One of the many times I'd come back was towards the end of Legion, and it was my first experience coming back to the game, and my first experience seeing the AoE change. That you just literally just run through these dungeons and AoE everything down, and I was like, this is stupid. And I thought, all right, maybe it's just this specific group. They're really geared. That was one of my first impressions, because I also come from a time when after a long time of grinding and getting into raids, you would go back, and if you did the 5-man dungeons, you tore it up. But it took a while. You had to be like fully raid geared for that. Like now you don't even need to be fully raid geared to do such a thing. Now it's just normal for you to just tear through dungeons, and it's terrible. It's not a good experience. So the experience that I remember and that I prefer is having to use crowd control per mob pack, having to single target DPS a specific target. Every single pull required coordination every single time, a long time ago. And I miss that. I love that. That was cool, and that was when people were much more social. I mean, even the dungeons themselves took hours to do, literally hours. 2 hours minimum, 2 to 4 hours minimum, 2 to 4 hours minimum for one single dungeon run. Now they're like 10 to 20 minutes, for real. So that part of the game experience has been completely destroyed. I have not been a fan of that ever since I came back. It's my least favorite thing about the game. I do not like it. Everything is literally just a grind. But there's a lot of, at least, I mean, there's so much content in the game because so many expansions now. At least there is an enjoyable experience, especially as a solo player. But as a group experience, it's just not for me. Like I play it. Like I'll have whatever. I have a little bit of fun playing these groups. I like the dungeons themselves. I like the design of the dungeons. I like the stories related to the dungeons and the raids and stuff. That they're very cool. But the regular grouping game experience now is so crap. It's just so bad. It's not social at all. Any kind of interaction you'll have with most players will just, as I mentioned, if you're too slow or you messed up and somebody gets mad at you for it, I mean, the game has gotten so mindless, so stupid, mindless, just garbage, just for certain things like that. when you turn a game that was based on grouping and social aspects and like actual communication and coordination, and you go into this mindless AoE thing, there's a huge difference. There's a huge difference. They're nothing alike. When I after getting used to this game, after I'd come back to it in Legion, I started comparing it to Diablo back then. It was quite a while ago. I started because you kill things so fast, and you're just farming stuff, and that's what I loved about Diablo. Like I love that. I want to go slay demons and just go farm loot, right? Like that's. But if I wanted to play Diablo, I would play Diablo. I wouldn't play World of Warcraft. You know, I mean, at this point, I mean, recently I was thinking, man, I kind of want to just go try EverQuest again. I haven't played EverQuest in a long, long time, and it kind of makes me want to go play that. Maybe they did, because I remember they even kind of went more casual too. But I'm curious now. I'm curious, but I'm like, well, I don't want to get into buying a whole bunch of expansions for that game. But it kind of makes me want to go back to that. I always did like Star Wars: The Old Republic, and I've recently picked that up again too for fun. But anyways, yeah, the group experience is just AoE. Even the raids, even they're looking for a raid tool, which is which I like a lot of the quality of life features that have come to the game ever since the original game. Like I can't even stand Classic. I can't stand it. I tried playing it the other night, and I was like, all right, let me see how far I can get. And I should. It's just been a while since I played Classic, and because I had tried playing Classic before, and every time I tried playing Classic, I was like, nope. I liked TBC. I liked all the upgrades. I loved all the upgrades since TBC. Oh, why I forget why I brought up the raid finder thing. Oh yeah, so the raid finder thing, the looking for raid is really cool. I mean, it gives casual players a chance to experience the raids on a lower end. But I mean, I think part of that has ruined it too, because basically, the heroic versions of raids used to be normal, and the mythic version of raids used to be heroic. And it used to be even the difficulty gap between normal and heroic was pretty large back then. TBC and Wrath of the Lich King, and I'm not sure about after that, because I didn't play super hardcore after that. But the difficulty gap between just normal and then the heroic difficulty was enormous. It was pretty huge. So now there's not much of a difference that I've seen. I mean, as some of the mythic raid stuff, I'm very interested in playing mythic raids, because they look like the real content for me, coming from back then doing heroic raids, and I'd rather do that kind of a thing. But just generally, even the looking for raids are very simple. So what's funny about the looking for raid and sad is, again, it's part of that, because everything has become so dumbed down and simplified and mindless when it comes to the group aspect. When it comes to the grouping, people get really mad at the smallest things. I find it strange that so another thing about the raids that I find interesting is, when LFR was first out, we used to have people at the beginning of each boss fight like briefly explain just the main things that you want to be aware of, right? Just to be like anywhere from 1 to 3 or 4 different key points. Here's a couple key things you need to know about this fight. This is what we're gonna go do. Nobody even does that anymore. But yeah, when LFR was new, that was the thing. People would take a few minutes, 5 to 10 minutes, to briefly go over the fight, and then go into it. Now you join LFR, and people just rush straight into pulling, and it's just over. It's just over. It's crazy, man. So I'm gonna say, sorry. I think as a new player, the grouping experience would be the worst part about this game. Not even just getting lost and not knowing what to do because so many things are happening at once. But if you want to group and you want to get into a group experience, it's not a group experience. It's a solo experience with other people in the same like vicinity. It's terrible, especially when most of the time. Like especially level 70, but like 50 plus, 9 out of 10 dungeons, one player is going to be carrying the group through it by one-shotting everything. Pretty much. Just go through there like everything's just it's so horrible. It's really horrible, and this is something I've not understood at all. I recently did a dungeon earlier today, and because you have like these weekly quests that you can do, and you go do a dungeon, you get like a little bonus reward for doing like these little things, and there's just no fun to it, because these little dungeons I'm telling 10 minutes, man. 10 minutes max, like average. These 3-4 bosses in these dungeons, and you just 10 minutes. It's terrible. Most of the time, even if I could be the one out DPSing the entire group, like, it's so boring. It's so boring. So it sucks. So look, I wanted to make this video specifically about the grouping experience and how it's different, and why I think it's worse, which I hopefully explain. I mean, I could go into more details. I have 2 other videos that are almost an hour long, because I could talk about everything in this game forever, and I can easily get distracted. I did try. I thought about uploading them, but I do a bit of rambling, and I'm like, I want to try to focus. But yeah, no. So, you know, I do prefer the older days when we had to crowd control, when we had to, because you couldn't handle 3 to 4 mobs pounding on your tank at the same time. They would kill your tank. And then if you accidentally aggroed another nearby group and they were pulled, as well as the group you're already on, you were almost guaranteed to wipe every time. And if you don't know what wipe, it's just everybody dies. Almost guaranteed. If you ever pulled more than one group, you were going to die no matter what. There was almost no recover unless you were a fully raid geared group. And even then, you would be using CC. Even then, fully raid geared, we'd use CC. I did change later. I think in Wrath of the Lich King, we're a little more open. But yeah, I mean, it was always a coordinated effort. Always took communication and paying attention to what you're doing. That's how it used to be. Now I'm not exaggerating. It's literally just you just spam AoE all day long. And that's it. It's terrible. And that's got to be a really crappy thing for a new player, because there is no avoiding that. You'll be in the lower levels. Like if you were to try to do some dungeons between like level 10 and 30, you'll probably find that 5 out of 5 where you're in a decent group where you can actually feel effective and like you're participating in it. But that's 5 out of 5. Most of the time, half the time, one person's gonna be in there just destroying everything, and they're low levels too. They're just geared up. It's so weird, man. It's terrible. That has been something that I've been confused by ever since I first came back and saw that that's how the game, what it turned into as far as the grouping experience. It's not fun. It's not. It's just not. Everything about the grouping experience sucks except for the quality of life, looking for group and looking for raid things. Like that's pretty cool. And then their pre-made groups, these are cool. Like these features are cool. Overall, generally the quality of life features are really cool, but the dumbing down, the removal of mostly having to pay attention to mechanics, and it does happen in raids. Like, you know, you can wipe in the simple looking for raid groups, but I mean, dude, yeah. That's why at this point I think I've said enough that I wanted to say. I just wanted to share. Look, I don't hate it or anything. If I did, I wouldn't be playing it at all. I generally love this game. I have a lot of fondness for it. But I do not like the new grouping system. I don't like that it's AoE focus spam, including the hardest difficulties in the game. The hardest difficulties are still AoE spam. It's pathetic and sad and gross. And it is hard. Like, I don't even want to recommend this game. I wouldn't keep somebody from playing it. You know, I'm just sharing my thoughts on this. Like, it's a cool, fun game. Right now I'm doing, oh yeah, I forgot I was doing Shadow Moon Valley for the heck of it. I'm planning to do the Netherwing grind. I meant to do that again. Anyways, I want to finish this in a way that makes sense, but it was mostly I just wanted to share my thoughts on that group experience that is so much worse. I don't know why we're here and why it's continued, right? And the only thing that makes sense to me as far as that is just that it's meant for brainless casuals that will give them money for the stupidest crap. I came across recent discussions. Some discussion came up about World of Warcraft, and they got the algorithms on me, so I'm like, I see it. But they were talking about how somebody was pointing out the booster, there's this new booster that they're selling on World of Warcraft, because there's always adding more cash shop items. This is destroyed. The heart of this is gone. The soul of this is gone. There's a lot of great stuff to it. The stories are great. I love the stories in Dragon, the newest expansion, the Dragon Blight. Stories are really cool. I've been loving them, man. I've been grinding the heck at them. But you can see, I mean, it's like I said, it's like really, it's just mostly designed. The stories are cool and stuff, but it's designed for stupid, mindless casuals so that they'll just waste money. Anyway, okay, so this guy was saying, I couldn't believe this comment. So this guy was pointing out this booster pack, and he's like, this is some bull crap. I don't remember the whole conversation, right? But somebody replied to this, and I saw this reply, and I was like, you can't be serious. This reply to that said something like, some of us, we just want to be able to pay our way to the top so we can skip all the pointless crap. We can skip the pointless crap so that we can play the game. That's what he said. He said we want to skip the pointless stuff so we can play the game. And I replied to him and I said, if you're boosting, you're not playing the game. Because you're not playing. What do you mean you're how is skipping the game playing the game? Because what they mean is they just want to rush to straight into endgame and end raid with whoever at the top, right? And it's not that simple, because even then you still have to grind, because there's multiple levels of difficulty there. But I couldn't believe that the mentality of, and I know he's not alone, because I've seen it mentioned before, but I've seen it this time and I was just like, what is wrong with people? But literally said that they want to pay to skip to the part where they can play it instead of do everything in between, which there's so much campaign, there's so much content, there's so much cool stuff, and you want to skip the game to play the game. That's dumb. Anyways, sorry. Come on, man. Like, yeah, so the group experience is far worse than it. And this is how it's been for a while. I don't know if it started during Draenor, because I didn't play at the time. I don't even remember. I returned to that expansion and I played it for a day and I was like, I don't want to play. I just wasn't in the mood. I just was not in the mood. I thought I wanted to come back and I didn't. So I didn't end up playing any of it really. And then I came back towards the end of Legion and I saw that everything was AoE fest and I was like, what is? And that's the entire grouping experience, unless you're doing the top tier, which you would not get to if you did for a long time. Unless you were rushed, unless you had like somehow a friend was able to rush you through and get the super top gear or something, whatever, right? Like if you got friends bringing you in to do that, that's a different thing. But like if you were to play this normally, even with the boost, even if you paid for a boost to the whatever their level gear crap is, you would still be grinding quite a bit, like quite a while, before you could get into some really top tier stuff. Yeah, so I don't know, man. It makes me sick, and I still enjoy the game enough to keep playing it, you know, but that difference is there and it's noticeable. And I'll tell you what, look, let me be clear. The main reason that I'm playing this right now is literally just to distract myself and pass time, because otherwise my time is passing while I'm losing my mind, and that's it. So that's the main reason why I'm playing this, and I'm talking about it just because of that, just because I'm playing it. I think I would love to play a better game at this point. I would love to play a similar styled game that's just way better. And like I said, I've getting back into Star Wars: The Old Republic, and I just haven't yet. I don't know. There's something that brings me back to this game. I do have like this like thing with it. I mean, years behind me with it and stuff, so it is easy to pick up, but I think it would be better to play a better game. I think, well, you know, it's funny. It makes me think of the Elder Scrolls Online as well, because I remember when that game first came out, everybody talked about how it was going to be like this group-focused game. And one of the first things I found, even in the beta, was like it was pretty soloable, just if I wanted to go play. And the reason I think of that is because I remember when I played long time ago, games like EverQuest, the early versions, most of the content was group based. Like you could not do anything basically without a group. Even I remember, I think Final Fantasy 11 was similar, right? Like you could grind solo, but it was insanely like long and tedious and rough, right? It was not fun, you know, unless you were just like had the patience and just didn't care, right? But you would have to have a lot of patience. I was that way with this game when it first came out because it was, you know, whatever. But yeah, so Final Fantasy 11 and EverQuest were like mostly you had to have a group to do anything for the most part. And that's pretty crazy. And people were saying that was going to... people have their own idea of what that's like when they say, oh, it's going to be group force or whatever. And but yeah, I found that ESO mostly soloable, and I like that. ESO is a great game, Elder Scrolls Online. It's a very cool game, and I do recommend it, especially as a solo experience. It's a good one. It's a cool game. But anyways, yeah. I don't know. Like I feel like I should say more, right? Because all I did was trash on the grouping, but that's all I wanted to talk about, and I even talked longer than I wanted to. Again. But I'm just like, because I hate the idea of just being like, this sucks, whatever. I'd rather. I don't know, man. It's weird. But let me know what you think. If you were there in the beginning, if you missed that, because not everybody does. I'm not sure, but it seems like some old school players, they don't even talk about it like they missed that. Like we should. Like if you missed that, we bring it back. Bring back real grouping, man. I hate this AoE spam. I hate it. I cannot stand it. It's so brainless. It really is. There's like a little bit of effort, you know? A little bit. Very little. Man. All right, anyways, I'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.